Hello everyone, and welcome back to Wargame Red Dragon. Today we have a 3v3 on a 2v2 map, one that you don't see all that often, which is another D-Day in Paradise. So I'm playing as Red Dragons, this is the Red 4 team, and I wanted to show off this game a little bit because, well, there's a whole bunch of unusual stuff that goes on, a lot that you don't really see all that often. A couple of, interesting, cheeky maneuvers, and just a hell of a lot that's was interesting. So the first thing you guys can probably see already is that there's a Z5 in use. This is a command helicopter, which as soon as I saw this, let me just say there was a mix of skill levels, it seemed, in the skill levels and experience in the, I guess, starting zone, which was kind of clear and expected from earlier on, and a lot of that's on both teams as well. So we do have some early action from this one fellow whose name I can't quite say, so I'm just going to call him Commander. From Commander here, going against Tiber, and I kind of expected the Chinese helicopters, the Z9As, well, not the Z9As, he had, the TY90, to do a little bit better, but it seems there was some sort of ground-based AA there as well, and there's a flanking attempt going on, headed over this way and around the side, which of course will be a problem for the Z5. My position is going to be in the center, so I'm headed up toward Gregory, securing these woods and trying to push through, maybe get into Gregory as well. I can cap on either side, though, and that is some good flexibility, but Lynx AH1s and Pumas coming in. I have a Helo Hunter out, one of my favorite planes in all of the Red Dragons coalition, and that's just trying to take down some of these guys before they can drop their paratroopers. I don't think I quite got there in time. And then finally, over on the far side, we have Dude, and he's headed up toward Cheriton, and is going to be working his way toward protecting Cheriton as well as pushing through to Ivan. Maybe not the best choice here for a mechanized push, as it is just incredibly far away from our starting spawn. Of course, as the game goes on and we can reinforce from land in center, that'll be a little bit better, but a couple of Eurofighter Typhoons coming in, and right off the way, Commander's having a very hard time, so not all that much left from his starting push. We have the Z5, we have a couple of QW1 AA troops, and some AA pieces that are way too far forward, supported by not a hell of a lot. But the interesting bit is that there's no enemy infantry here quite yet. These guys need to be unloaded and haven't been. It's just a lot of interesting stuff going on. PH2 Tiger marked by Dude, because it's going to give him a problem. The Spatbull of 30s rather, are going to have a hard time dealing with that on their own. And I'm just setting up some recon infantry and a recon tank, pushing toward Gregory, some tank of Chachot, and a nice defensive posture here, along with some sort of force protection with bomb tank Fagots, and moving up infantry through the woods. Bomber coming in, and that is going to be a bit of a problem, as well as a consistent theme. I do have a MiG up, and we are able to take that guy down in coordination with Dude's M90 Sava, but the Tiger is still alive, and this was the Helo Hunter. I'd wanted him to go in and get that guy, but I thought taking down the bomber was probably a bit more of a high priority. We'll see if that ended up being a good decision. So, more infantry coming in, and I'm trying to get these guys, the Hwasong Chungs and Bo Chung Su, up into this forward position. We encountered an enemy vehicle, and let's see if we can see the flaming wreckage. There it is. Just nice and chilling there in the woods. But Legion aren't the best at fighting against vehicles, and I was afraid of a mechanized push coming through here that would kill my expensive anti-infantry before they could really get a lot done. The PH2 Tigers being quite a nuisance and is taking down a fair amount of Dude's stuff over there on the left side, and so finally we have my Helo Hunter coming in, this time dedicated to that PH2 Tiger and able to take him down without too much trouble. So I do really like those planes. They get in and they get out so fast that it's hard for enemy ASFs to take them down. Maybe not the best against a good AA net, but certainly for flanking attempts and maneuvers like that, they're really good at shutting it down. So we are starting to move forward through the woods in Gregory, and my intention is, if I can secure the farther side, then I can cap on this side and slowly push stuff up through the woods here. We have a ZZC-55 scout vehicle moving up and not spotting anything, but that's not necessarily determinative. Some sparring over by Dude, and we'll get to that in just a second, but first, SBS have made their way over to our zone, and this is interesting. So command infantry probably would have died to the SBS, they can't get away from it fast enough. But this guy was able to just lift off and not care, and that actually kept him alive, right? So the difference is buying a new command vehicle or not, and this guy right now is just happy as a clam sitting there, just chilling. But there's a lot of SBS, enemy special forces, in this zone. I'm marking it because I'd kind of seen that come in and not a ton of a response. Q5D also, it looks like, was called in for a gun run, and is going to be having a hard time dealing with the Eurofighters. There's Gurkhas here, SBS, and this could go from bad to catastrophic really quickly. If they secure Anna, block off Elena completely, that's a +4 ticking for them that they could get. Of course, they are up right now 89 points to 0, as Anna is uncapped. So not great for us so far. I'm bringing in command infantry here, and we are able to get some shots with the bomb tank Fagot on a Nanoyon Shiki G. Not the most valuable thing there, it's about 60 points, but if I can secure Gregory, that gets us the center zone. Dude has been able to fend off some Panzergren, and the M84As are a little bit in a risky spot because in Panzergren 90, the Panzerfaust 3s are extraordinarily deadly. But meanwhile, on the right-hand side, there's a lot of flame artillery that's coming in. I'm also calling in some infantry, and we also have Legion 90 from Commander that were brought back from that forward side to deal with the Gurkhas. So we'll have to keep an eye on that as things go forward. But Bochung Su trading with Sochung Su, and the BTR 60Ps and Hwasong Chungs are going to be coming up, and this is exactly what you want to have in the woods. So infantry to infantry fighting, and then decided by infantry fighting vehicles that themselves stay out of trouble. So this was an interesting thing from Tiber. He kept these Eurofighters up the whole time, and that's not the worst thing ever, but they're so far forward. We'll see in a minute, these are actually able to be sort of attacked by my own planes as time goes on, just because they're too far away. If I time it right, I can get them when they're still turning. So Dude has done a nice job of securing Sheraton. We have infantry Prozminski and Babskaya Pies, as well as Oat 64As on the right-hand side, my Li Ren and ZZCs, sort of blocking off attacks through here. Quad stacks of, Mechanizovana Pez, as well as some transports. These guys need to be unloaded before they're that far forward. Come on, man. Anyway, we all make mistakes. Goodness knows I make more than my fair share, but they need to be unloaded. Legion sparring with Gurkhas, but that's going to be a little interesting. So I want to see that. Down to 23. I mean, the Legion had some nice punch there. The Gurkhas are stunned. And 21, let's see, they can't fire the napalm while they're moving, so these guys need to be stopped because the Gurkhas will outtrade them using that mini-me against the Type 81. And you can see that, yeah, if the Legion had been stationary and using those napalm launchers, I think that would have gone a lot differently. But as it is, they're in for a really rough time. More just close-range napalm artillery coming in, and now we have a couple bombers. Tornado 1DS, my own MiG, this is what I said earlier, my MiG goes out and attacks the enemy ASF, and is able to get them, but the Tornadoes and Sabres are well timed, and I don't have anything up for that. HQ-61A will do some work, but only if it lands 2 hits, and it's not even able to land 1. Of course, there is a Jaguar A coming in to answer, and that's going to be a problem for my ally's Radar AA if he doesn't turn it off soon, and there's the missile, there's the kill. Q-5D bomber coming in, and the Gurkhas are probably taken out by that. My own Legion just securing the town and trying to make sure that the enemy advance is halted. So, if we take a look at the overall map, Gregory is secured, my own forces are pretty far forward, we have line of sight on Nanoyon Shikis, but not able to really push forward more than that. My couple of vehicle things here is, I was beginning to suspect maybe this wasn't that well held. If it is, then my choice of command infantry location is pretty obvious, so I was expecting some sort of counter push. I hadn't really seen much motion here, and I thought maybe, okay, well, if one of the Blue 4 players is moving around this side, the other one might be securing Elena, and there were attacks into Cheriton as well, so that could be an issue. But the Mitsubishi M2 taken down by a ZTQ, and I love these guys. 60-point scout tanks. It's not going to break the bank. They're not going to be able to perform against mainline tanks, but they can do pretty decent work. Meanwhile, a bit of a push from Dude Mechanizovana moving forward, and this was, we were talking at the time, and I was kind of prodding him to move forward. He has such a well-consolidated position, may as well put some pressure out. Looks like there has been identified some Stinger AA there, and yeah, I mean, the Tiber has definitely been able to shift this from the usual engagement location to something very non-traditional. But I mean, look at these guys. There's still infantry in these guys. They're still not unloaded in the front. I think they were kind of forgotten about when the attack came through here. So Commander sort of just dealing with unexpected stuff, and yeah, it can be confusing, it can be stressful dealing with that. Mortars coming in, trying to suppress Dude's advance, but it doesn't look like they're huge HE, although that wasn't bad. Those might be cheaper artillery pieces. They didn't look like the 10 HE ones, but that was really not bad. They might be, was it 5 HE, technically howitzers? Not really sure. I didn't really have any anti-air here, and that was a problem, but able to get a kill on a command vehicle well, Command Helo again, so way more Command Helos than I'm used to seeing off the ZTQ, so very valuable there. And the WZ-551s moving up in tandem, we're able to push this relatively well. So ZTQ spotting, ZTQ taking a couple shots, and Nanayan Shiki-Gs are going to give him a very hard time, so the WZs are taken out, and this guy should start retreating any second. Yep, there's the reverse order, and we'll see if he can stay out of the range of that artillery fire and dodge the Nanayan Shiki-Gs, but stunned by the artillery fire, and that's going to be a problem. Down to 2 strength, and actually the stun saved him from that next shot, but down he goes. So a couple Nanayan Shiki-Gs, very nice fire support vehicles, and more than enough to take down that cheap tank. So Jaguar A coming in and flying a little too close to the sun, but surprisingly not killed by a couple of Savas, finally taken down at the last second by one of my Su-27 SKs. So I did have the 2 of them circling in the back there for quite a while, just the defense, the same thing the Eurofighters were doing over here on the eastern side, but in a safer position where I can respond reasonably to enemy planes. We did have eyes on a couple of FRR rolling 3s. These guys are relatively cheap for being radar AA, 65 points. But don't let that make you think they're not worth fearing, because 65 accuracy is very nice. 3,500 meter range on planes is often enough for a deep bombing run, like the one that Tornado just did. But dude's having some nice success here. I'm calling in some reinforcements. We're going to be pushing forward pretty soon. I was trying to help stem the bleeding on the right hand side as well. So Li Ren moving over, a couple of infantry moving over to help support my ally in Anna and make sure things didn't get out of control. That's the other reason these guys have just taken a defensive posture, and as long as we have Gregory capped and can maintain control of Anna, we're taking out a +1, which that's enough, right? You don't need to win by +5 all the time, you need to not let the game get out of control. Speaking of, Tiger had using those Sneb rocket pods and Mechanizovna pushing up without smoke into an enemy town. This is a recipe for disaster, and it soon proves to be one. Radobranki do get a nice kill there, and the Tiger had takes some fire, and does actually go down, so it's not one-sided, far be it from that, but these guys are not going to make it to the town through Commander Marine. This needed to have been smoked, probably bombed or artilleried beforehand as soon as there was knowledge of Commander Marine. I mean, these guys, elite training, 15 strength, really beautiful infantry killers from the French arsenal, so it looks like a Eurocorps deck for our opponent, Teddy. But, I mean, it's a nice concave here. The Radobranki and the Przminski have a nice thing going, but artillery comes in, pounds the Radobranki, they're going to be moving backward, and overall a pretty decent defense from Teddy, at least toward what he was facing. And we were able to kill an enemy command helicopter, so another one that was spotted, and I did mark it for my allied commander there, over in Elena. So we're able to cut that off, and my BTRs are moving up, infantry going to be moving up soon, trying to cut off reinforcements to this part of the town. And this is, I think, the Blue Force side here is maybe a little bit weaker, because we can reinforce directly into Anna from our first spawn, and they really can't unless it's amphibious. They have to go up through and then past these woods. So if you can't hold those woods, then you're going to have stuff fired upon. It's going to be a really difficult time reinforcing Elena with anything but paratroopers, which can be relatively easily defended against by forward AA in the woods that are very hard to control for one player for the whole time. So SBS dealing with some Hua Bing there, and I should have moved up to Lijian to deal with them. I didn't quite notice at the time. I was looking up here and also trying to keep dealing with the enemy fighters. We have another, well, enemy planes, I guess. Tornado 1DS coming in, and some KFE-25 reinforcements coming up. Plus, I have a bit of an offensive here going on in Gregory T-90s and ZTQs. This guy's, well, he's there to deal with the Nanayan Shiki-Gs because they do not want to be on the receiving end of that big gun. We also have Tunka Shashao moving up through the woods and spot a couple of K1A1s on the left. That will be a problem eventually, but not for right now. I felt confident we'll shift over a little bit more to the right, and that should be okay. Enemy commands Helo again, and I don't really get it. Command infantry wouldn't have died to my first push, and Gregory still would have been neutral. But Fival coming in, able to get a couple nice kills here, but Kiryu Hawk and the Rolling 3s opening up, and this is what I'm talking about. We got 2 radar AA pieces killed by the Fival, but, well, we got killed in return, and I only get one of those guys, so I have been debating if I want to take them down vetted and get a couple more, but I don't know about that. Here it would have been helpful, but if they start missing, and they're just going to die as well. K1A1s do kill my recon vehicles over on the left-hand side, but HQ7 moving up, T90, ZTQ, and on the defensive, tanks can do really well. So we do have a bit of an engagement here between Commander and Oh, which one is that? It looks like Caboosir? I'm not sure. ZX Caboosir for the Blue 14. And with a little bit of support from Lu Jiandui and ZSD63Cs, we have this relatively well in hand, and now we can secure that part of the town. Elena has been lost for the Blue 14. We're taking out a +3, and that is going to be a bit of a devastating blow. So let's speed things up just a little bit here as we do get into the middle stages of the game. Things can get a little bit extended. We still do have a couple of good combats. My ZTQ gets taken out by the K1A1 double squad, and I've been hoping to get through to the enemy artillery that had been firing from this sort of rear-facing position, but a nice move by my opponent there trying to cut them off, which we return the favor, of course, over in the town. I don't think they expected us to have capped it, and this is something else that I wanted to comment on as part of why I chose this game. There were a lot of command vehicles, a lot of command infantry that were called in to a position that had already been lost. And that's expensive. So, telling my allies push, 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 because we have the momentum with the +3 ticking. But generally speaking, if you're already a little bit in trouble, it's the wrong thing to do, from my experience, to try and cap a zone that's contested that you're not sure you can hold. Because, yeah, look, we have another command helo coming in here, and there's no way he should be moving in after the previous one was killed by forward infantry in Elena. We didn't... Oh yeah, so my ally has some AA infantry, some manpad infantry right there. And I have the Hwasong Chongs that are shooting at it as well. Down it goes. And between all of the command vehicles and command infantry, that's like 350 points that could have been used to try and recapture the zone. T90S doing great work in Gregory, and I thought it was time to move the infantry forward again. Maybe not quite yet. I am trying to get a couple of reinforcements, some BRDM2s, just nice, cheap scouts. But yeah, I think this was Blue Force mistake, was a couple more Gurkhas in the town-to-town fighting and a couple fewer just dead command infantry and command vehicles would have gone a long way. But we are down to simply +1 again, as it looks like the command helo, the Z5, that was in Anna from my ally, was killed with cluster artillery. Now, the reason for that is it was actually spotted, so this is the other reason you don't want command helos. Oh jeez, they have infantry so far forward. These guys were spotted by the enemy infantry all the way on the other side of Anna for a long time, and that made it a good artillery target and a valuable one at that. So Hachikyuu Shikis, some of my favorite infantry fighting vehicles in the whole game, duking out with Bo Chung-Soo and getting a little bit too close. So one of them goes down, but we only have a single RPG-7 left. This guy's down to 4 strength, and we do manage to take him down with our last RPG, so good for you, Bo Chung-Soo. You guys deserve a bit of a promotion there, but this was getting a little bit tenuous. My Hwasong Chums cannot deal with those sort of infantry fighting vehicles. The next wave, if it's coming, will definitely be hard to deal with. In the meantime, Gregory has been, I guess, made into a bit more of a proper push. We have an Mi-1 helicopter and some good, well-rounded troops moving up. M84A unfortunately taken out by another Tiger Had, and this was just brutal. I mean, look at that. Making up his worth in that single action and still continuing on firing at the BVPs. Maybe getting a little too close to the front, but the snabs are just brutal, the ATGMs are just brutal. One of those transports killed, and there's no... Oh, answering AA from the Sava, able to take that guy down. So this is just turning to absolute chaos. Proletary have managed to take the town. It looks like there was artillery bombardment, probably killed the Commando Marines, or what was left of them, as they did take some damage, infantry to infantry. BVP trying to get a shot on the Tiger, but not able to do it, and Proletary approaching this town are stunned before they can move in to deal with the Legion man-to-man. M84A is giving some good supporting fire, and 4HE is pretty nice, but infantry gets so much damage mitigation in woods and in towns that it's really not doing that much per shot, so higher rate of fire is of course always preferable there. PH2 Tiger maybe flying a bit too close to the sun as the Sava has been moved up, trying to deal with him, and one shot, one hit, second shot, and down he goes. Li Ran engaging with some forces there, and now we're pushing well past the center line. My Tenka Shashou and Li Ran were able to clear up through the eastern side, and the T90s sparring a bit with K1A1, so I did miss that a little bit. They're pretty damaged, but unfortunately they do get my HQ7, which really pissed me off during this, so that's the reason I've called in a couple of ZTS 63-2s. 45-point tanks, they're just supposed to screen in front of the damaged T90S until I can get that gun back online. But dude here really doing very nice work against Teddy, and his Mechanizovna are up and into this town, able to push into Ivan if the game continues for that much longer, but it may not. Fibao, I mean, hey, he got a couple good kills. Let's see if he can get out. 1 strength left. and just out of range of the enemy Biko. So now the ZTSs are in position. More KFVs are going to have a bit of a field day against my damaged infantry there, but these guys are moving up and going to try to challenge those K1A1s. Lynx 3, though, this was good counterplay, right? So Tiber going up, supporting his ally here in the center, and oof, taken down, luckily for me, by my ally Sava before he could crush my entire advance, which definitely would have been the case had he been able to move forward. So KFVs and infantry securing this forward section of woods, but it's a little bit too little too late as we're rounding the 400-point mark, taking out a +5 as we've now capped Elena, so kudos to my ally there. I'd actually called in some command infantry and completely, like a bonehead, forgotten to move them, so you know what I said earlier about we all make mistakes? Yeah, that one was one of mine. But I'm trying to move forward through these center woods now. If we can collapse on Ivan, that'll just be the absolute end of it. I mean, taking out a +7 will end the game so fast. But Conquer's teams out 64As. This was, I think we'd pretty well crushed through the defenses in Gregory and toward Ivan. So that is going to be it for this match. Hang around, I do want to show off some of the units that did well and criticize some of the ones that did poorly, as of course my positioning was not anything approaching perfect. Or anything close. So, kills and losses, definitely in favor of Red 4, 58-23 kills, 38-75 losses, and in particular, I had a KD of more than 2 to 1. Commander kind of struggled a little bit. This was the result of that Helo push at the beginning, Paras getting a little bit ahead of themselves, then also having to deal with persistent attacks from SBS and other infantry and paratroopers around the side of Anna. So, he had a bit of a tough game, but Dude and I were able to make up the difference. And it looks like Caboose really kind of struggled. His reinforcements were the ones that were cut off and ambushed by my own troops in that forward position, and I mean, Teddy did pretty well, so he was fighting Dude most of the time. Not bad KD. Alright, in terms of the units that did well, the Helo Hunter MiG-29 912B, killing a Eurofighter shouldn't usually happen. He got close enough, he was able to use those short-range missiles, and I mean, they work, right? So that was pretty nice. Lynx AH-1 and Tornado 1DS rounding that out. Hwasong Chung, I think, are really valuable infantry fighting vehicles. Bochum suited okay, and these scout tanks were really wonderful. So just crushing through anything short of maybe a 60 or 70 point tank for my enemies. T90S did okay, but really not great, so not paying for himself. Actually, maybe. So the two E's are 50 points each, RCSB, non-HGG. I guess, yeah, he paid for himself by about 20 points, maybe 30. Fibao, I probably should have been a bit more careful with him. And this is a big criticism I had for my own play after this game. The first seaplane run should have been a little bit more shallow, so that you could maybe get 1 kill instead of 2, but then survive it, and come back in again to grind down that enemy AA net. Other than that, I think that's most of what we got. ZTS, a 45-point tank, got the last shot on the K1A1. Actually, both of them, which is just kind of depressing, but they can't claim that kill outright. It was just putting the finishing touches on what the T90S started. So that's all we've got for you guys today. Thank you all for hanging around, and we'll see you again real soon.